I can assure you that today's stage is unforgettable for all pilgrims, the ascent to O Cebreiro. We will start from here, from Villafranca del Bierzo, the lowest point, and follow the Valcarce River valley. There the river, the Camino de Santiago, the highway, and the road all converge in a wooded landscape. The stage is divided into two parts. The first part is a continuous climb through a string of villages, and then, from Las Herrerías, a grueling climb until we enter Galicia and reach O Cebreiro. Let's go! We cross Villafranca del Bierzo, seeing palaces and emblazoned houses on both sides. And pay attention, because we haven't even started yet, and we're already at an important fork in the road just after crossing the bridge over the Burbia River. Once you've crossed the bridge, you'll come to an interesting fork. On the left, you can continue along the official route next to the road. On the right, there's a mountain route that climbs up to Portela and then descends to Trabadelo. What are the advantages of this route? Well, you get to walk through a beautiful forest and you don't have to walk along the main road. Disadvantages? It's longer and much harder. If you're in good shape and the weather is nice, you can take the alternative route without any problems, and if not, just continue along the official route as we are doing now. We continue along a regional road that follows the course of the Valcarce River. Then we take the National Road 6 towards La Coruña, and sticking to it we arrive at Pereje after a few kilometers. At the exit we pass by the Municipal Pilgrims Hostel, built of stone, wood and slate. Finally, the fog that has been with me today begins to disappear, although the weather here is unpredictable. Given the significant elevation gain, the weather in Villafranca may be very different from that in O Cebreiro. The next stop on this stage is Trabadelo, surrounded by large chestnut trees. We continue our journey along the national road and reach La Portela de Valcarce, where truck drivers often stop to rest and spend the night. In this town, we leave the heavy traffic behind and take the old national road, which follows the course of the Valcarce River, flanked by the Ribera forest. In 15 minutes, we enter Ambasmestas, with its church dedicated to Nuestra Señora del Carmen, and then continue on to Vega de Valcarce, capital of the municipality of the same name. Nearby, we see a castle on a hill. With such a tough stage behind us, it's not worth walking there, so we'll show it to you here. It is a historic 9th century fortress, built on top of an earlier one that was destroyed in the 8th century. The place was very important in the 12th century, and the Codex Calistino itself mentions it as Castro Saratin. We continue on our way, and Ruitelán is now close by. The hermit San Froilán, who was Bishop of León, and ended up bringing together several monasteries in the province of Zamora, such as San Salvador de Tábara, lived in a cave here. We leave the National Road 6 to enter the village of Las Herrerías. We reach the last houses of the village, where a church and a hospital for English pilgrims were founded, already mentioned in 1178. We begin the climb. This is getting exciting. We have had a good climb from Las Herrerías, and at this point cyclists will continue along the road to O Cebreiro, while those of us on foot will continue along the trail and path. First we will descend to the river and from there begin a very steep climb to La Faba, followed by another slightly gentler climb to La Laguna. Let's take it easy and be patient. The climb to La Faba is really tough, with gradients of over 16% in some sections. At times, mud takes over the road and makes progress even more difficult. The second part of the climb to Laguna de Castilla, the last village in León, is somewhat gentler, although there are still gradients of 10%. The landscape opens up before us and the forest gives way to mountain vegetation. Broom, gorse and heather are now the main features. We are in the Ancares Lucenses Natural Park, and we may even be surprised by snow well into spring. In the area of Os Santos, we find the monolith that marks the border between the communities of Castile and León and Galicia. A few meters further on, we come across the first sign for Galicia, which tells us how many kilometers are left to Santiago. Keep going. When we reach O Cebreiro, we pass the monument to the pilgrim by Galician sculptor Miguel Couto. Just after that, we reach the foot of the pre-Romanesque church of Santa María la Real. Well, we've made it. We've completed this iconic stage of the Camino de Santiago. We've been lucky. First there was fog, then good weather, but in reality, you can experience everything here. And finally we arrive at O Cebreiro, the first town in Galicia on the Jacobean route, with its traditional peosas, which are buildings with natural roofs. There are also other stone buildings with slate roofs. This gives us an insight into how people used to live. In fact, there is a peosa, the first one you come across when you arrive, which is now an interpretation center, and you can see what they were like inside. Once you've rested, you have to come here to this church, one of the oldest on the entire Camino de Santiago. In addition, one of the most famous miracles on the route took place here. It was 700 years ago on a snowy, blizzard-filled day when the priest was alone celebrating Mass. Then a local from a nearby village came to Mass, and the priest thought, "Why has he come in this cold weather? Just to see some bread and wine?" At the moment of consecration, the bread turned into flesh and the wine into blood, making it clear to the priest and everyone else that all Masses are equally important. And right here, next to the church, we have the bust of Don Elias Valiña, parish priest of Cebreiro between 1959 and 1989. He was a key figure in the revival of this town, but not only this place, but the entire Camino de Santiago. He carried out several studies to promote the Jacobean route, supported the creation of Friends of the Camino de Santiago, and worked tirelessly on the famous yellow arrow signage that has become the key identifier of the Jacobean route. Before the bust of Don Elias, we pray and remember all those who brought the Camino de Santiago out of the history books and filled it once again with pilgrims. Because thanks to them, you and I are once again on the way of St. James. Buen camino!